All right, so I wanted to start off by expressing my appreciation to Davida and Lynn, lead organizers of the event, with a number of volunteers for inviting me to present the past, present, and future of residential solar in Connecticut. So I'm very excited to be here with all of you to do that. And then I just want to express my admiration for all of you. Volunteerism is a really important thing to do in and around our communities. And today's event is an example of that for many of you who care about residential solar here in our state. All right, so I didn't want this to be an infomercial about the Connecticut Green Bank, but I wanted to note a few things. First, our mission. Our mission is to confront climate change, and we do that by increasing and accelerating investment in Connecticut's green economy. So that's our mission. Second, our vision. Our vision was inspired by three people: Mary Evelyn Tucker, who teaches at the Divinity School at Yale, whose inclusive capitalism really moved us. Mayor Muriel Bowser of Washington, D.C., whose inclusive prosperity focus in her community really resonated with us. And then, of course, lastly, the late mother, Jennifer, of the Daughters of Mary of the Immaculate Conception in New Britain, Connecticut. She taught us a lot, but she taught us that we can't have ecology without an adequate anthropology. We can't have environmentalism without humanitarianism. So, our vision is a planet protected by the love of humanity. And it is my hope that all of the team at the Green Bank wakes up on Monday morning with a thank God it's Monday attitude to, in effect, help us realize that vision. When I think about our mission to confront climate change, I really see this image. This was the first presidential motorcade in the United States, and it was with President Teddy Roosevelt in August of 1902 in downtown Hartford, Connecticut. He's actually in an electric vehicle called the Victoria Phaeton, which traveled between 20 to 40 miles on a charge at 20 miles per hour using lead acid batteries, which took 3 to 10 hours to recharge. This EV was manufactured in Hartford, Connecticut by the Columbia Automobile Company, owned and led by Albert Pope. The company employed thousands of workers. You see Pope Park here in Hartford, Connecticut, honoring the legacy of Albert Pope. Seeing all of the people watching the parade, including the police on the horseback and bicycles and Roosevelt in the EV, I often wonder if easier access to capital could have made EVs more affordable and accessible over 100 years ago and enabled their widespread adoption in markets, displacing the rise of the internal combustion engine. Can easy and affordable access to capital enable families to realize the benefits of expensive technology? Many of you know that solar PV systems are expensive, but easier and more affordable access to capital, combined with a little financial innovation, can enable everyone to benefit from these technologies. In 2015, the Green Bank was 3 years into its implementation of the Residential Solar Investment Program. This was an incentive program, which was doing great, working towards its 30 megawatt statutory target, when we began to ask ourselves, who is benefiting from the investment in and deployment of solar in Connecticut? We commissioned a study by the Center for Economic Analysis at the University of Connecticut, which showed us that although we were seeing more investment in and deployment of solar in Connecticut, those who were benefiting were those with monetary means, those with access to money. This is a street in Bridgeport, Connecticut, where several low-income families are realizing the energy savings benefits of rooftop solar. These families lease their solar PV systems. About 75% of these families who have solar in Connecticut have systems that are third-party owned through a lease or a power purchase agreement. Before Senator Sanders created the Solar for All program, the $7 billion federal program underneath the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund within the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act, Connecticut was implementing its own version of Solar for All in 2015 in collaboration with a company called Posigen from New Orleans, Louisiana. In Connecticut, we have 1.4 million occupied housing units. There are about 1.15 million single-family homes, that is 1 to 4 units in Connecticut, or about 80% of the housing units. In 2013, we did a residential rooftop solar potential study that identified 660,000 rooftops, or about 60% of the single-family housing units, that estimated the potential installed capacity for rooftop solar at about 3.9 gigawatts of solar PV, or about 6 kilowatts as an average system size for those 660,000 potential rooftops. There are about 380,000 housing units located in low-income census tracts. Those are less than 80% area median income census tracts, or about 30% of all housing units, both single-family and multifamily. These are the hard-to-reach or underserved customers, or environmental justice, or low-income and disadvantaged, or vulnerable communities that we want to increase investment in and deployment of solar. Renters pay for clean energy public policies too, but many may not receive the benefits from incentive programs. About 20% of units overall are rentals. It's no secret that renters are highly correlated with income. So most of the renters are in low to moderate income census tracts. So a question for us should be, what should be a realistic target and a stretch target for housing units that have access to solar and storage? What public policy mechanisms can enable households to benefit from solar and storage? There are 4 public policies that support the market for residential solar in Connecticut. I'm going to go through the past, the present, and the future. The past. The first policy was the Residential Solar Investment Program, or Connecticut General Statute 16-245 FF, which established a 30 megawatt target in 2012 as part of Section 106 of Public Act 1180. It was then increased to 300 megawatts by the end of 2022 in Public Act 15-194 as part of Governor Malloy's second term campaign promise, and then increased again to 350 megawatts to support the transition to the new incentive program in 2021, known as the Residential Renewable Energy Solutions Program. I'll talk about that in a second. The Green Bank implemented the RCIP from 2012 through 2021 to 2022. It was the most effective program in the region, with more than 46,000 families deploying nearly 380 megawatts of solar. It surpassed the public policy target ahead of schedule. Connecticut had the highest watts per capita than any state in the Northeast on residential solar as a result of the RCIP, so it was effective. It was also the most efficient in the region, with Connecticut's REC-based, renewable energy credit-based incentive for solar being the lowest in terms of dollars per kilowatt hour than any state in the Northeast. Connecticut was also the most equitable residential solar market in the Northeast, leading deployment in less than 80% area median income census tracts. Connecticut was solar for all well before the IRA's Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. And the last E, the end of life. This is something that we forgot. We need to make sure that at the end of life of the solar PV systems, that we have a solution, reuse or recycle. 380 megawatts of solar panels is the equivalent volume of filling 30 Olympic-sized swimming pools, or the weight of 4,600 African elephants. Okay, let's go to the present. So the second policy supporting residential solar is the Residential Renewable Energy Solutions Program, or RRES, under Connecticut General Statutes 16-244Z. This incentive program is administered by the electric distribution companies, Eversource and United Illuminating. And it provides a netting tariff or a buy-all, sell-all tariff incentive options. By the end of 2024, there were more than 34,000 families deploying nearly 265 megawatts of solar. This has far exceeded the past deployments of 50 to 60 megawatts of residential solar deployment under the RCIP. There have been over 102,000 families residing in single-family units. It's about, again, 1.1, 1.2 million housing units. So nearly 10% of the single-family market for housing units, or over 15% of the solar potential, that 660,000 that I mentioned before, that are deploying nearly 900 megawatts of solar, or over 20% of the solar potential that I noted at 3.9 gigawatts. The third policy is Section 2 of Public Act 21-48. This is a current policy, which brings affordable housing, multifamily renters, that is 5+ units per household, into the RRES program. Just a little bit of a story here. As we were all working to support the implementation of the RRES policy when it passed in the early 2020s, there was a regulatory process to interpret the statute and put the program into implementation. The Green Bank was actively engaged in that because we want to ensure that families have access, especially vulnerable communities, families that reside in vulnerable communities, have access to the benefits of these technologies. Within the statute, it was clear that this program applied to single-family units, that is 1 to 4 units. There's a statutory definition there. We were trying to make a case within another one of many of PURA's really comprehensive processes of stakeholder engagement. But when the statute is clear and it describes 1 to 4 units, you cannot make a case for multifamily. So we immediately reached out to our colleagues at DEEP, the Office of Consumer Counsel in PURA. We were in the middle of the legislative session. And fortunately, Senator Lopes from New Britain was looking for a bill to support renters in the clean energy economy. We reached out to him and said, have we got something for you? We need to make sure that this residential renewable energy solutions program works for everybody. Let's include a provision in this legislative session for this piece of public policy that would enable affordable housing to become a participant in the RRES. And that bill was passed. That was Section 2 of Public Act 2148. So just a real big shout out to Senator Lopes, as we were in New Britain at CCSU. So within that program, several of us, including the Department of Housing, the Connecticut Housing and Finance Authority, DEEP, engaged to help provide some definitions around affordable housing. One definition included, has the property undergone or received assistance from the state or the federal government? If yes, then check, that property shall be deemed affordable housing. So that was among the several tiers that were identified for affordable housing. That identified actually 12 to 1,300 properties around the state where 80 to 90,000 renters reside. So there is a list. It's an Excel spreadsheet. It is frontline. If you all are interested in whether or not there are affordable housing units in your town so that you can help them go solar, let us know. I'm going to show you a list here in a second of the top 10. From that, the Green Bank developed a technical assistance and financial assistance program that we call Solar Map Plus. That's the Market Assistance Program Plus, specifically for solar and storage as it would apply to multifamily affordable housing. In just a little over a year, The Green Bank has executed contracts to bring solar energy to 8 affordable housing sites that support over 470 tenant units, with 11 more projects currently out for competitive bid. So in total, when we complete these some 19 projects, there will be over 1,000 rental units where each of those tenants will receive over $300 a year for 20 years of energy savings, actually a credit for them. Okay, so here is a list of the top 10 municipalities with the most market potential for solar and storage for multifamily affordable housing properties. These top 10 towns represent 55% of the market, that 12 to 1,300 properties, about 700 properties. Hartford, New Haven, Bridgeport, Stamford, Waterbury, New Britain, Middletown, Norwalk, Norwich, and Meriden. So if you reside in any of those towns, you have the most number of affordable housing. It would be great if you worked with your local town and local volunteer groups to encourage those property owners to install solar and storage to support those families in reducing their energy burden through solar. Right here in New Britain, there are 41 multifamily affordable housing properties eligible for the RRES program. Feel free, we're going to make available on our site a list of all those towns who have eligible affordable housing projects. All right, so the fourth public policy in support of residential solar in Connecticut is Public Act 2153, which set a goal to deploy 1,000 megawatts of battery storage by the end of 2030, with the goal of 150 megawatts of that through residential behind-the-meter battery storage through the Energy Storage Solutions Program, or what we call ESS. I asked the crowd, how many of you are aware of battery storage incentives available in Connecticut through the program? There were about 5% of people who raised their hand in the crowd, so not many. So a lot needs to be done to help more people realize that there are opportunities to pair solar with storage. I wanted to say that we are really behind our target. We have 5 megawatts currently deployed, and we need to be at 150 megawatts by the end of 2030. I also spoke to the crowd about how we're heading into a new policy on solar compensation, specifically this legislative session with the passage and nearly unanimous bipartisan passage of Public Act 25-173, the Energy Affordability Act. There were several signals of the legislature's intent to change net metering compensation. Currently, net metering costs all electricity ratepayers no less than $130 million a year and growing, as 60% of what's being produced from that solar PV system is exported to the grid. That is, that it is not being produced and simultaneously consumed, but 60% of it is sent back to the grid, which is net metered, and those homeowners receive the retail value of that export. So that is net metering, and there is a cost. I would also note that there is a significant benefit to that as well, by all those homeowners reducing peak demand on the electric grid. But one of the things the legislators did was they included in this bill a non-bypassable charge with the recent passage of Public Act 25-173, which set a 3.25 cents per kilowatt hour charge for those residential solar PV systems that use the monthly netting tariff. So clearly sending a signal that we don't want full retail rate compensation for that export. We're going to charge you for that, signaling that there will be a change in policy or compensation for net metering. There were a couple of other things within that bill that the legislature did to demonstrate the future that they want to see with solar and storage. One was the support for advanced metering infrastructure, which was to allow Connecticut state taxpayers and the state of Connecticut's very efficient bond rating to be used as a source of capital to finance advanced metering infrastructure for Eversource customers. The state's cost of capital is lower than the utility's cost of capital. The state has a great credit rating. So by taking advantage of that, we reduce costs on all ratepayers to modernize the grid with advanced metering infrastructure. The second thing the bill did, the third thing the bill did was it set a tone for wanting to move towards time of use rates or time varying rates when it comes to these technologies, these distributed energy resources, smart meters, solar, storage, all those sorts of things. So clearly there's going to be a future public policy in Connecticut that looks at changing the compensation mechanisms for residential solar. The Energy Storage Solutions Program provides incentives to families who want battery storage alongside their solar PV systems, although they can also be standalone systems as well. So not only will you receive the energy savings benefits of solar that reduce your energy costs, but now you can install a battery to increase your energy security in the event that the grid is down during a grid outage. Those systems, through this public policy and this program, can also be dispatched by the utilities to reduce summer and winter peak demand on the grid. So that's a really good thing, right? You're producing solar, you're storing it, you're having someone else dispatch it when you don't need it for a reliability reason. Let's say it's a sunny day, but you may have a high demand on the electric system. So the utilities can call the power from your battery to reduce peak demand on everybody, reducing electric rates for everybody. That's a really good thing. So not only do households participating with residential solar and storage benefit, but all ratepayers then benefit from these smart systems. These state incentives are really good. Check them out if you're not aware of them. You can go to our website, ctgreenbank.com, or the Energy Storage Solutions website. Just Google it. From a federal incentives perspective, many of you know that the solar incentives are changing. They're being phased out by the end of this year, 2025, with a few years left for third-party owned systems. But with respect to battery storage, those federal incentives, that investment tax credit will still continue. So that's really important. Take advantage of those federal tax credits in combination with the state incentives. It's really important that we put a brain on these solar PV systems. One of the things I noted was that we recently announced a partnership with a company called GoodLeap, which is providing families with not only the access to capital to support solar and storage, but they're also using artificial intelligence and virtual power plants to better dispatch those technologies to the benefit of everybody on the grid. So take a look. The future is about virtual power plants and what we can do to be smart with these distributed energy resources. Okay, so I'm coming to an end here. This event is about community, this Sunday event, this third act event. So I wanted to begin to wrap this up by really honoring and recognizing several community leaders, including people like Susan Oslander from Reading. Many of you might recognize her. This is the Meadow Ridge solar-powered carport. There's about 763 kilowatts of solar PV there across the senior living center. And a lot of that was led by the advocacy of Susan Oslander and her colleagues at Meadow Ridge. I also want us thinking about how we can increase ways to enable community investment. So we have a couple of things. The week of September 29th, we're going to be unveiling our third Green Liberty bonds. There's going to be a retail purchase, which means that individuals can buy these bonds. These are low denomination bonds, $1,000 increments. For serials up to about 10 years. You could buy a 1-year bond, a 3-year bond, a 10-year bond, whatever is best for you as you're looking for an investment. We modeled the structure of these bonds after the war bonds of the 1940s. So go visit www.greenlibertybonds.com for more information. The proceeds of these bonds support residential solar. So when you think about this, the modeling after the war bonds of the 1940s to protect democracy, if you're buying Green Liberty bonds, you are combating climate change by providing proceeds to support families who want to install solar. So you're doing it in a very 21st century way to help confront climate change through your purchase of these bonds. We also have our 14th quarterly issuance of the Green Liberty notes. That's currently open. There are only a few more days left, maybe a week left on that issuance. Those proceeds support energy efficiency for small businesses and nonprofits, a collaboration that we have with Eversource Energy and Amalgamated Bank. Those proceeds can go towards supporting things like more efficient heating and cooling at churches, serving as resilience hubs on a cold day and a hot summer afternoon. Those can go to support energy efficiency for small businesses in your community. So take a look at that. You can buy small denomination notes at $100 increments. So we want to provide these opportunities to all of you to invest in Connecticut's economy. We've got a really strong collaboration with Honeycomb. Honeycomb is the platform that you go to buy these Green Liberty notes. You set up a wallet. I've done it. Really easy to do. If you find something that you want to support in your community, you can buy those bonds. You can buy those investments however you like. As I noted, these proceeds support the Small Business Energy Advantage program of Eversource. But one of the things we want to do, working with Honeycomb, is allow for project-specific raises. So stay tuned in 2026. I'm sure there are a lot of projects that you all want to do in your communities with faith-based organizations, with your municipality, with local nonprofits, where the crowd, its citizens, may be interested in investing in it. We want to enable that opportunity to happen for all of you. So stay tuned for that. Not only should we each be helping each other invest in and deploy clean energy, which we all talk about on a daily basis, but we should be able to provide families and businesses with the access to capital by investing in them as a community investment. All right, here's another community leader we all know. This is Andy Bauer from Portland, Connecticut. He's led 1,000 different efforts over the last 2 decades since I've known Andy. He, through predominantly the Portland Clean Energy Task Force, which is a task force he's led over a number of years, to things like this solar on the brownstone school. He's also done a number of other things. For example, this video here, he's pointing to his Franklin batteries on his home. So he actually did a video teaching all of us about how solar and storage works together with what he's done at his home. So he is thinking about not only how to make his family's home save money and reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but also being resilient to the impacts of climate change in the event of a grid outage through storage. So check out the Energy Storage Solutions program that I noted. In the past, the Green Bank has supported community-based marketing campaigns through things like Solarize, Solar for All. Perhaps we need to revisit support for those campaigns, those old campaigns, and modernize them for solar and storage. Perhaps we can evolve those campaigns to something like ruggedize or fortifies to make our homes more resilient through things such as fortified roofs. Roofs that are not only fortified but also have solar on them and storage, so that we're not only addressing our energy issues, but also preventing high winds and heavy storms from destroying our property. So thinking about this, we need to move beyond just solar to storage and solar, where we take care of our families, our neighbors, and our communities through community resilience. Perhaps we need to once again, we being the Connecticut Green Bank, work with foundations to support community-based campaigns to catalyze markets. There are far too many community champions to name here in this photo, but community engagement is the foundation to our success. It is the foundation to our democracy. Sustainable CT is an absolutely wonderful nonprofit organization supporting communities and volunteers across our state. Local actions, statewide impact is absolutely what it's all about. We are the Constitution state, the first state in the Western Hemisphere with the doctrine, the fundamental orders that governed our people. If de Tocqueville were traveling around New England today and came to the event at CCSU for Sunday in honor of Third Act's Sunday event, he would see democracy at work in America. The civilization of New England is like a beacon lit upon a hill, where at first it sheds its light on its neighbors and then tinges the distant horizon with its glow. We need to continue to strengthen our community engagement, support for community-based organizations and volunteers who are realizing a vision for themselves, their communities, and our country. So I want to come back to where we started, except this time it isn't about the missed opportunity to manufacture electric vehicles in Hartford, Connecticut nearly 125 years ago, nor the first presidential motorcade in an EV with Roosevelt. In support of Public Act 22-25, Connecticut's Clean Air Act, the Green Bank is about to close on several transactions to support electric school buses in environmental justice communities. Imagine when those school buses are powered with zero carbon clean energy. Imagine when the cost of fueling those school buses is cheaper than gasoline. Imagine when those school buses can plug in to a building and provide resilient power when the grid is down. Cleaner, cheaper, and more resilient. Today, our future is our children. Today is our moment to change that image from 125 years ago, from missing the moment to advance electric vehicle adoption by building out the clean energy infrastructure for zero emission vehicles, transporting our most precious resources, our children, from home to school safely and securely, then from school to home. We can do it. You can do it. Thank you, Lynn Stoddard and Davita and Third Act for the opportunity to speak with you this afternoon, or again through this Encore presentation. I wish Third Act the best of luck. We are here to support you and want to see all Connecticut residents have affordable and accessible access to solar and storage. Thank you very much.